The concept of sunnah in the Muwatta of Malik ibn Anas. Mohammed Yusuf Guraya, 1969. Introduction. The term sunnah has been vested with prime importance in Muslim jurisprudence from the very beginning. Despite its fundamental importance, the origin and meaning of the term sunnah has always been ambiguous and obscure. For example, in the writings of the Muslim jurists who lived during the first 190 years, approximately, after the Hijrah, the term sunnah was used in a meaning peculiar to that period. From the last decade of the 2nd century onwards, however, the term was used in a different meaning and changed its character. Further, in early stages, the content of sunnah was not specific and determined. The activity of Muslims in general and the speculative free thought activity of administrators and scholars in particular were genuine, valid and authoritative constituents of sunnah. Later the term sunnah was overshadowed by the term sunnat al-Rasul, and its content became specific and determined, i.e. hadith. The only genuine and authoritative content was one which was attributed to the Prophet. The activity of the Muslims themselves lost its authority in case of conflict with the content of the sunnah of the Rasul. Also, in recent years, a controversy has arisen whether or not the concept of sunnah of the Prophet existed before its content became the exclusive prerogative of the Prophet. It is in the view of this very important evolution in the concept of sunnah that this detailed study has been undertaken. The Muwatta of Malik ibn Anas, who died in 179, a comprehensive work of the earliest period on the subject, has been chosen for this purpose. The Muwatta represents the transition from the speculative free thought activity of the earliest jurists to the systematized and well-defined science of hadith in the latter period. Malik has compiled vast legal material created by past legal authorities and also recorded the living practice of his own time. This entire material has been presented in the form of hadith from the Prophet and his companions, in the decisions and verdicts of competent authorities, and in statements and descriptions of jurists and scholars. Traditionally, it has been held that Malik in the Muwatta is simply a recorder of the practice of his past and present, and that he himself contributed very little to the material of the Muwatta. But the contents of the Muwatta do not support this view. There is, it seems, a basic concept around which the entire body of this whole material revolves. We shall call this concept the concept of the sunnah in the Muwatta of Malik ibn Anas, and shall carry on a detailed investigation in the following chapters to discover what this concept means in respect of the contents of the Muwatta. Our methodology in this study will be to examine certain terms and expressions used by Malik in the Muwatta. These terms, in fact, are the pivot of Malik's thought and are the gist and substance of his opinion. Typical amongst these expressions are al-amr indana, as-sunnah indana, al-amr al-mujtama'a alayhi indana, al-amr alladhi adraktu alayhi an-nas, adraktu alayhi al-nas, السنة التي لا اختلاف فيها عندنا والذي لم يزل عليه عمل الناس. Apologies, these terms are not in Arabic, they are transliterated, so there's a problem reading them. The first means the affair with us. Al-amr عندنا, the sunnah with us. Al-amr al-mujtama' alayhi عندنا, that affair that we have all agreed upon. The affair that has reached us and reached the people. The sunnah, that there is no difference in it with us, and it continues to be a practice amongst the people. Rough translation. We shall follow the use of these expressions systematically throughout the Muwatta, and shall note their usage in their various contexts. On the basis of this intensive and concentrated study, we shall try to determine and understand the foundations and the determining principles of Malik's thought. Much time and space will be devoted to the study of the expressions as-sunnah indana, ahl al-ilm bi biladina, the people of knowledge in our region, al-amr al-mujtama' alayhi indana, that affair that has been agreed upon with us. Traditionally, these expressions have been interpreted in the meaning of the actual practice and consensus of the people and scholars of Medina. Not satisfied with this interpretation, we shall conduct a detailed investigation and see whether there is another possible interpretation. To have a full understanding of these expressions and to have a comprehensive view of them, we shall it will be necessary to verify our findings from the Muwatta by the writings of scholars contemporary with Malik. For example, Layth ibn Sa'ad, who died in 175, Abu Yusuf, who died in 182, Ash-Shaybani, who died in 189, Abdurrahman ibn al-Qasim, who died in 191, and Ash-Shafi'i, who died in 204. All Hijra dates. Among the latter authorities in this regard, we shall mainly consult Az-Zurqani, the chief commentator of the Muwatta, and Shah Wali Allah of Delhi, another commentator of the selection of the Muwatta. In the first chapter, detailed background of the concept of Sunnah, its origin and meaning will be given. In this chapter, the problem of whether or not the concept of Sunnah of the Prophet existed before the content of the Sunnah becomes the exclusive prerogative of the Prophet will be discussed. The second chapter will be devoted to the study of the problem of the hadith as basis of Sunnah. The third chapter will describe the main terms and expressions used by Malik in the Muwatta, and will provide a bridge to the fourth chapter, which will discuss in detail the key expressions of Malik. Al-Amr indana, Al-Amr mujtami' alayhi indana, Ahl al-Ilm bi biladina, etc. The fifth chapter will include a brief summary of the previous discussions in the beginning, and will discuss in great detail the concept of Sunnah in the Muwatta. The conclusions will be given at the end of the fifth chapter. Our study of the problem has led us to conclude that the concept of Sunnah in the Muwatta is based on the recognized Islamic religious norms and on the accepted standard of conduct derived from the religious and ethical principles introduced by the Prophet. That is why the Muwatta is not a simple record of the practice of the Muslim community in Medina. It is rather a normative practice of Malik. The concept of Sunnah is different from the orthodox concept of Sunnah because hadith is one of the legal arguments with Malik, whereas in the orthodox view of Sunnah, hadith is the only basis of Sunnah. End of introduction. Stay tuned for many more parts.